So usually when we think about a weapon of mass destruction, there is this underlying assumption of a complete lack of conscience.
Right.
I mean, it's a machine, right? It's just physics.
Yeah.
You launch a cyclonic torpedo or, you unleash a phosphex barrage, and the explosion doesn't exactly pause to check if the blast radius is clear of innocent bystanders.
No, definitely not.
It just destroys. So the morality of that is entirely on the person who pushes the button, not the fire that follows. But when you step into the world of the Adeptus Astartes, and specifically focus on the 18th Legion, the Salamanders, well, that comfortable separation between the weapon and the conscience is completely obliterated.
Oh, absolutely.
And we are looking at a dynamic today that is honestly an absolute paradox. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We're going to be looking at a fascinating excerpt titled Vulcan's Fire, the Compassionate Guardians of Nocturne.
Yeah, and you're really dealing with the ultimate moral contradiction of the 31st and 41st millennia here. Because, as anyone familiar with the universe knows, the baseline for a space marine is, well, it's transhuman dread. They are psycho-conditioned, gene-forged killers designed to conquer the galaxy.
Right. They aren't exactly known for their warm and fuzzy personalities.
Exactly. Most chapters and legions operate on this incredibly cold, unyielding calculus. Like, the Iron Hands believe flesh is weak, right? And the Marines Malevolent will gladly bombard a refugee camp if it means killing a handful of orcs. But then you have the Salamanders.
The ultimate outliers.
Right. They are simultaneously the undisputed masters of fire and destruction, and yet they're universally recognized as the most humane, compassionate warriors in a galaxy that is essentially defined by its despair.
And that right there is the core mission for our deep dive with you today. We're going to unpack how this specific legion maintains that completely impossible balance.
It really shouldn't work.
It shouldn't.
Yeah.
How does a faction that is affectionately or maybe terrifyingly known as the Pyromaniac Blacksmiths of the Imperium also serve as its conscience?
It's a crazy label.
To me, it's like discovering the most aggressive, uncontrollable arsonist in a hive city is also the chief of the rescue squad.
That's a really good way to put it.
Right. An arsonist wants to see the Havelock burn. But a rescue chief wants to pull people out of those Promethean fires. So we have to figure out how a single mind, let alone an entire chapter culture, balances that urge to burn with the sworn duty to save.
Well, breaking down the specific duality of that label, the Pyromaniac Blacksmiths, that really gives us our first window into their psychology based on the text.
Let's get into that. What does that actually mean?
So consider what a blacksmith is at their core. A blacksmith is a creator, right? They're a builder.
Yeah, they make things.
Exactly. They work with immense, dangerous heat, but they harness it to forge something protective and enduring. A mastersmith has infinite patience.
Right, it's not a rush process at all.
No, not at all. They strike the metal, they heat it, they shape it over hours, days, sometimes even weeks. It is an act of creation born from intense, unbreakable discipline. Every single strike of the hammer is calculated.
Which is the exact opposite of a pyromaniac.
Completely.
Because pyromania represents the total absence of that discipline. A pyromaniac is driven by this uncontrollable psychological urge to just destroy with fire.
Pure chaos.
Yeah, pure chaos. It is the love of the flame for the sake of the flame, and they don't care what it consumes or who gets caught in the inferno. So putting those two concepts together in the source material, it creates this endlessly compelling psychological profile for the 18th Legion.
It really implies a constant, agonizing internal struggle taking place right beneath the ceramite.
Yeah.
The tension there is just incredible because their humanity, their status as the Imperium's conscience, it isn't happening in spite of their destructive power.
Wait, you're saying it's because of it?
Yeah, the lore actually suggests their humanity is fiercely guarded precisely because they know exactly what horrors they're capable of inflicting.
Oh.
Right, because if you possess the inherent urges of a pyromaniac like a genetic predisposition toward the mastery of flame, but you also possess the mind and discipline of a master blacksmith, you are constantly aware of the monster chained inside your own ribcage.
That is a terrifying image.
You are holding the cage door shut every single second of every single day.
It must take immense psychological fortitude to wield absolute, world-ending destructive power and restrict its use solely to protecting innocent life.
It's almost unimaginable.
When you have the capability to solve literally any logistical or tactical problem by just turning the entire continent to ash.
Which they absolutely can do.
Choosing restraint is a monumental act. choosing to protect a fragile baseline human rather than just dominating the battlefield with scorched earth tactics. That is a daily exercise in extreme willpower.
And to really understand how the salamanders maintain this impossible discipline, we have to look at the crucible that forged them, right? We have to look at Nocturne.
The homeworld.
Yes. Nocturne is the ultimate defining factor of their character. We all know it's classified in the text as a volcanic death world, but the mechanics of that classification are really crucial here.
It's not just a little bit hot.
No. Nocturne operates on this highly unstable orbit, and it's heavily influenced by its massive, oversized moon, Prometheus.
Ah, right, Prometheus.
And this creates a period known as the time of trial. Basically, every 15 Terran years, Nocturne is subjected to gravitational shearing that triggers catastrophic tectonic upheaval.
We are talking about supervolcanoes erupting simultaneously, right? Ash choking the entire atmosphere.
Yeah. Oceans of magma just completely reshaping the continents.
Now, here is where the sociology of Nocturne gets super fascinating to me because it runs completely counter to typical survivalist logic in this setting.
Oh, 100%.
Because usually, brutal environments breed ruthless, cold-hearted survivors. I mean, look at Fenris or Medusa or Nostromo.
Great examples.
If you grow up in a place where resources are scarce and the environment is actively trying to murder you every day, the population usually gets really hardened.
They have to.
Right. They become selfish, tribal, and vicious, literally just to survive the night. So if the salamanders comes from a literal volcanic hellscape, the logical conclusion, if you're just looking at the data, is that they should be the most callous, brutal warriors in the Imperium.
You would think so, yeah.
So why does a death world produce the Imperium's conscience? It feels like a massive contradiction.
It does, but the answer really lies in the specific nature of Nocturne's hostility. It's different from those other worlds.
How so?
Well, if you are dealing with predators or, say, rival gangs in a hive city on Necromunda, ruthlessness keeps you alive. You can fight those things.
Right.
But you cannot punch an earthquake.
Joe.
You cannot intimidate a pyroclastic flow, and you definitely can't out-stubborn a tectonic plate. When the planet itself is the enemy, that whole every man for himself mentality, that is a literal death sentence.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. The only way humanity survives on Nocturne is through absolute unyielding reliance on the community. The harshness of the planet didn't forge them into isolated killers. It forced them into radical empathy.
Wow, radical empathy. That is such a cool way to phrase it. Because the hostility of the planet absolutely necessitates communal survival.
Exactly.
I mean, the sanctuary cities of Nocturne only function because everyone pulls their weight and protects their neighbor. If I don't help pull you out of the magma flow today, there's going to be no one to pull me out of the ash storm tomorrow.
That's exactly how they operate.
So every single innocent life becomes infinitely precious because the environment takes life so easily and so randomly.
And this communal survival is the absolute bedrock of their culture, and it perfectly aligns with the arrival and the philosophy of their primarch, Vulcan.
The Forge Father himself.
Yes. And Vulcan's upbringing on Nocturne is incredibly telling. The text mentions he was adopted by Nemble, a master smith, and he was raised not as a warlord, but as a craftsman.
Which is a huge distinction.
Massive. Contrast Vulcan's title of Forge Father with someone like Horus the War Master or Angron the Red Angel.
Yeah, completely different vibes.
Right, because a warlord values territory, dominance, and submission. But a craftsman values patience, care, and the actual act of building something that outlasts them. Vulcan understands the materials he works with, whether that material is iron, ceramite, or humanity itself.
And I think the defining story of Vulcan's early life completely cements this ethos for the Legion.
Oh, the contest.
Yeah, the contest. We all know the legend of the Outlander, who was the Emperor in disguise, arriving on Nocturne and basically engaging in this massive contest of smithing and hunting with Vulcan.
A classic mythology trope.
Very much so. And the climax of that contest is the hunt for the massive fire drakes. So Vulcan secures the largest drake, but then the mountain erupts, leaving him hanging over a precipice. He's holding his prize in one hand and desperately clinging to the ledge with the other.
And he's stuck.
He's totally stuck. Then the Emperor arrives with a smaller drake, sees Vulcan's predicament, and without even a second of hesitation, tosses his own prize into the magma just to free both his hands and haul Vulcan to safety.
And that singular moment, that is the ideological foundation of the 18th Legion right there.
It really is.
Because the Emperor sacrifices the contest, he sacrifices the glory of the win just to save a single life. And Vulcan knees to the Emperor not because the Emperor is more powerful, but because the Emperor demonstrated that life is inherently more valuable than pride or victory.
That is such a powerful lesson.
It is, and Vulcan internalizes this lesson deeply and passes it down to his genetic sons. The genetic inheritance he gives the salamanders is this mindset of the protector craftsman.
So they don't see the galaxy as just a map to be conquered.
Exactly. They see it as a fragile piece of metal that needs to be carefully shielded from the fire.
In this shared crucible, the survival on Nocturne and the philosophical craftsmanship of Vulcan, it just bleeds so deeply into how the salamanders organize their entire chapter structure and culture.
It dictates everything they do.
Yeah, because they don't isolate themselves in a towering fortress monastery away from the mortals, looking down on them like gods, which is what almost every other chapter does.
Right, they actually live among their people.
Which is wild for Space Marines.
It is entirely unique among the Adeptus Astartes. They maintain these deep, enduring ties to their mortal families and communities, while other chapters literally sever all ties to their past lives during the hypno-indoctrination process.
Yeah, they basically become entirely separate from humanity.
Exactly, but the salamanders return to their settlements. They act as clan leaders, elders, and teachers.
That has to keep them so grounded.
It really does. It prevents that transhuman detachment that plagues legions like the Iron Hands or the Dark Angels. By living among the baseline humans of Nocturne, they are constantly, daily reminded of exactly what they are fighting to protect.
And their organizational structure reflects this deep connection to their homeworld, too. The text points out the Promethean companies.
Yes, the Promethean company.
They aren't just your standard Codex Astartes military divisions. Historically, they operated with 7 companies rather than the standard 10, and that directly mirrored the 7 great sanctuary cities of Nocturne.
Right, tying the military back to the civic identity.
Exactly. Their entire military apparatus is intrinsically linked to who they are as a people. And the term they use for their philosophy, the Promethean cult or the Promethean creed, that is loaded with heavy mythological significance.
Oh, the reference to the myth of Prometheus is absolutely no accident.
Let's unpack that for a second.
Sure. So Prometheus was the titan who stole fire from the gods, right?
Right.
And he gave it to humanity to uplift them, to bring them out of the cold and the dark.
A noble goal.
Very noble. But for giving humanity the power of the gods, Prometheus suffered a terrible eternal consequence.
He was chained to a rock.
Chained to a rock, his liver eaten daily by an eagle, only to regenerate and be eaten again the next day. So the Promethean myth is fundamentally about a dangerous gift that carries a severe, agonizing burden.
And the salamanders map onto that myth perfectly.
They really do.
The Promethean creed isn't just a manual on how to clean a flamer or something. It's a spiritual center. The forge is essentially their temple.
It is their temple, yes.
They treat war as a heavy, agonizing duty, an act of blacksmithing where they take that dangerous fire, their own incredible destructive power, and they strike the galaxy on the anvil, trying to beat it into a safer shape for the innocent.
And bearing that Promethean fire is a burden that comes with immense suffering.
Because they see the collateral damage.
Exactly. They are constantly forced to witness the destruction they're actively trying to prevent.
We see this codified in their central ideological anchor, too, which the text refers to as a salamander's testimony.
Right, the tenets of the Promethean cult.
It constantly emphasizes their oath to the innocent over the glory of conquest. I imagine it is a constant reminder they recite just to keep the pyromaniac in check and the blacksmith in control.
It demands self-reliance, patience, and above all, the protection of the weak.
But, this raises the most difficult operational question. How does a philosopher blacksmith actually fight? Because at the end of the day, they are space marines.
They are living weapons.
Right. They are designed for war.
Yeah.
And their specific combat doctrine, according to the source material, is both beautiful and terrifying.
It's called the art of the flame.
Right, the art of the flame. And it revolves almost entirely around the mastery of close-quarters combat, heavy armor, and flame or melta weaponry.
Which?
Tactically speaking, this is a massive operational contradiction.
It really is.
Put yourself in the command throne of a salamander's captain for a minute. You are deploying into a chaotic urban war zone, and you are wielding weapons that literally create billowing, uncontrollable infernos.
Fire is not a precision tool.
Exactly. Promethium doesn't neatly vaporize a target like a las cannon. It splashes, it sticks, it spreads everywhere, and it consumes all the oxygen in the area.
It's horrifying.
And while unleashing this literal wall of fire, you are simultaneously trying to protect incredibly fragile, terrified civilian bystanders who might be huddled in the very next hablock. I mean, operationally, that's just a huge contradiction. It is a tactical nightmare.
But that tension is exactly why the text calls it the art of the flame.
Ah, the art.
Right, because fire, by its very nature, wants to be wild. It does not distinguish between a tyrannid bioform, a traitor marine, or a civilian child. It simply consumes whatever is in front of it.
It's completely indiscriminate.
Exactly. Therefore, to use fire in close proximity to civilians requires a level of mastery and precision that borders on the supernatural.
They aren't just spraying and praying.
No, a salamander doesn't just spray promethium indiscriminately. They understand the fluid dynamics of the fuel. They know the backwash of the heat, the exact spread of the cone of fire. They calibrate the nozzles of their flamers with the meticulous care of a master watchmaker.
That's insane to think about in the middle of a war zone.
It is, and their power armor modifications play a huge role in this too.
Oh, right, the artificer armor.
Yeah, because they are master craftsmen, a massive percentage of the chapter wears artificer armor, which is heavily modified and void-hardened.
And they don't just use it to look cool or survive incoming fire.
No, they use this dense, meticulously forged ceramite to actively manipulate the battlefield. They will physically place their massive armored bodies between the backwash of their own flame weapons and the civilians they are trying to protect.
So they act as walking thermal shields.
Precisely. They use their own bodies to block the heat.
Wow. It creates this profound psychological duality on the battlefield. Because they look at the roaring flame bursting from their weapons, and they have to see exactly what they could become if they ever let go of their testimony.
The fire is a mirror to them.
Yeah, it's a mirror. So their compassion has to be as fierce, as violent, and as tightly controlled as the weaponry they wield. They advance slowly, methodically, inexorably, forming this unbreakable shield wall of heavy armor and overlapping fields of fire.
And this commitment completely upends traditional military logic.
Oh, entirely. Because a military commander, particularly in the administratum or the astra militarum, they operate on the concept of acceptable losses.
It's all just numbers on a data slate to them.
Right. You run the numbers. You don't trade a multi-million credit battle tank to save a single-stranded guardsman.
Never.
And you certainly don't trade an Adeptus Astartes, an elite, genetically engineered super soldier who takes decades to train and equip just to save one random civilian.
The math simply doesn't work for the Imperium.
It doesn't. But the Salamanders reject the math entirely. The text explicitly states they will sacrifice themselves to protect a single life.
Because they recognize that humanity isn't a ledger.
Right.
And this is the very reason they are the Imperium's conscience. Think about it. If you start running the numbers, if you declare that one baseline human isn't worth the risk to a space marine, then what happens tomorrow?
The slippery slope.
Exactly. Tomorrow, maybe a squad of humans isn't worth it. Then an entire hablock isn't worth it. Then a whole city. Then a whole planet.
And suddenly you're the Inquisition hitting the exterminatus button.
Right. Once you begin compromising on the inherent value of a single innocent life, the entire moral edifice of the Imperium crumbles into the ruthless pragmatism of the traitor legions.
That is such a crucial point.
By willingly putting their incredibly valuable existence on the line for ordinary people, the Salamanders prove that the superhuman power of the Astartes is actually meant to serve humanity, not subjugate it.
It is a profound level of selflessness. But, a moral code is really just theoretical until it is pushed to its absolute breaking point.
It's easy to be good when times are easy.
Exactly. It's easy to be the noble protector when you are executing a flawless planetary compliance against a vastly inferior foe. But the ultimate test of the Salamanders wasn't a glorious victory.
No, it was a nightmare.
It was the nightmare of the Horus Heresy, specifically the drop site massacre on Isfahan V.
The darkest day.
And the text defines this event as simultaneously their finest hour and their greatest tragedy. It's the moment that left them a shattered legion.
And Istvan Vath is really the fulcrum upon which the entire history of the 18th Legion turns.
Let's unpack this specific paradox.
Yeah.
Because how can a massacre that shatters a legion be considered their finest hour? Usually a military's finest hour is, a resounding, glorious victory.
Well, to understand why it is both a tragedy and their finest hour, we really have to look at the mechanics of the betrayal itself.
Set the stage for us.
Okay, so the Salamanders, alongside the Iron Hands and the Raven Guard, they formed the first wave of the Emperor's retribution force against the traitor War Master Horus.
A vanguard.
Right. And they deployed into the Urgal Depression, which is this massive, unforgiving kill zone, fully expecting the second wave, which was the Iron Warriors, Night Lords, Word Bearers, and Alpha Legion to reinforce them.
But we know how that went.
We too. They walked into an apocalyptic trap.
Yeah.
When the Salamanders fell back to resupply and rotate the lines, that second wave opened fire on them.
Just total betrayal.
Total betrayal. They were caught in a devastating crossfire between Horus's entrenched forces in front of them and their supposed loyalist reinforcements behind them.
The slaughter must have been unimaginable.
It was a massacre in the truest sense of the word. They were broken, decimated, their Primarch Vulcan was missing and presumed dead, and their entire command structure was obliterated.
Transformed in a matter of hours from a proud legion into a shattered legion.
Exactly. So the tragedy is obvious there.
Very obvious.
But why is it considered their finest hour?
Right, that's the question.
It's because of how they reacted when the anvil broke.
Oh.
Think about it. When faced with ultimate betrayal, when the sky was literally raining drop pods filled with traitors and their brothers were dying by the thousands in the black sands of Istvan, what did the Salamanders actually do?
They didn't run.
Right. Did they abandon the Promethean creed? Did they succumb to panic or turn into ruthless survivors who would use their allies as meat shields just to escape?
No. They held the line. They did exactly what they were forged on Nocturne to do. They relied on each other, and they protected the vulnerable.
Yes. They formed the rear guard.
Wow.
In the midst of utter annihilation, the surviving Salamanders, led by figures like Artellus Numion, they didn't break morally. They anchored the defensive lines. They threw themselves into the breach to shield the retreating elements of the Raven Guard and the Iron Hands.
So they sacrificed themselves to save their brother Astartes.
They did. And in doing so, they proved that their compassion and their testimony weren't just luxuries of peacetime.
It wasn't just talk.
Exactly. The Promethean Creed wasn't just a philosophy they preached when they were safe in the Forge on Nocturne. It was an unbreakable iron core that survived even when the Legion itself was physically shattered into pieces.
That's like shattering a master-crafted mirror.
Oh, I like that.
Right. When you break it, every single tiny fragmented shard still reflects the light.
That's a perfect analogy.
The Legion was shattered, but every surviving piece, every isolated band of salamanders fighting a guerrilla war in the aftermath of Istvan was still a salamander. Every piece still held the flame.
They passed the ultimate terrifying test of their values.
Because it is incredibly easy to hold strong morals, to be noble when you are winning, right?
Oh, anyone can be a saint in paradise.
Right. The true test of your character is what you do when you are betrayed, when you are losing, when the universe is actively trying to destroy you. And the salamanders upheld their values in the absolute darkest hour of the Imperium.
The journey of the 18th Legion really is a masterclass in holding onto your humanity in a grim, dark universe.
It really is.
I mean, they are the sons of a volcanic death world who somehow value fragile life above everything else.
The Pyromaniac Blacksmiths.
Right. They are genetic superweapons who meticulously wield chaotic fire as a surgical tool to protect the weak. They are a shattered legion that somehow remains the Imperium's unbroken conscience, standing as this forgotten, unextinguished beacon of hope in an era of endless war.
But, you know, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
You okay?
Because when you really dive deep into the lore of the salamanders, there is a chilling realization of what the psychological toll of their philosophy.
Or burden of it.
Yeah. The source text briefly mentions the ultimate horror of the salamanders, just before describing them as the Imperium's forgotten hope. And it makes you wonder, why would hope be categorized as a horror?
That is a dark thought.
But think about the ultimate horror of actually being a salamander. In the 41st millennium, which is a galaxy of total despair, endless war, and trillions of lives lost daily, clinging to compassion isn't just difficult, it's incredibly painful.
Because you can't save everyone.
Exactly. When you refuse to abandon your humanity, when you insist on valuing every single innocent life, you ensure that you will always feel the agonizing heat of every single life you fail to save.
Oh, wow.
Right. If you are an Iron Hand, you calculate the acceptable losses and you just move on. You feel nothing.
It's just a variable in an equation.
But if you are a salamander, Every innocent death is a personal, excruciating failure. You carry the weight of every soul that burns while you were trying to hold back the dark.
That's a heavy, heavy burden.
So it begs the question, is their empathy their greatest strength? Or is it a self-inflicted torture? Does being the conscience of a broken universe mean you are doomed to feel its pain forever?
That's something that will definitely stick with you.
It really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll leave you to think on that.